They kept them themselves. They promoted themselves. They offered nothing to the breed. They never did stud services. They never sold show puppies. They never brought new breeders in. They were just a bunch of egomaniacs with nothing to do on the weekends, and they gathered up all the ribbons they could load in their Sprinter.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Tack Box Podcast. This is episode 25. We're a quarter way to a century, Dale.
Quarter. Yeah. We're almost there.
It's just like, pretty quick. We're going to be coming up on episode. It felt like just, 5 weeks ago, we were like, man, episode 20, this is a big deal. And now here we are 5 weeks later at episode 25. It's crazy.
25. We're shooting through it. We're past the legal drinking age. We're headed well into,
This is the point now where you start counting birthdays backwards, because it's like there's nothing from 25 on. You're not.
Yeah, no. Nothing to be proud of after that.
No, just a number at that point. How was your weekend?
Well, I spent it with you in Greeley. Pretty good. We went to lunch at Roosty's, which was supposed to be named Rusty's, but they misspelled it and they kept it the same, kind of like, so is it Roosty's? It was good. It was good. Jane was fascinated with my pancakes because she's never seen any pancakes that look like that. It was all good, and you did well with your little chin girl. She got a nice NOHS Group 4, so that was nice. I mean, it was a win-win.
It was a win-win all the way across the board, and I'm still thinking about those pancakes. I wish we'd have brought one home for Jane to try out, but it was a good weekend. It was a decent size. It was a decent show. Not as big as the previous Greeley. There's like 2 Greeleys in September.
Is there?
August, September time frame, and the previous one 3 weeks ago was bigger. But there were some nice dogs there, and you got to to watch you
judge. Lovely venue.
Yeah,
the venue.
So we had the Tack Box
nice.
In person. The Tack Box.
We were there.
We got to watch each other work. I got to watch you judge. You got to hang out with Jane. You got to watch me.
We got to watch you show in the group.
Yeah.
It's a win-win.
Cool. And then while you're hanging out there, and then you start hearing buzzing, and a lot of the hot topic going around right now, if everybody doesn't know, is we got some AKC news with some registrations, right?
Yes. Well, I don't think people even really give a lot of thought to how many different kinds of registration the American Kennel Club offers, and it's been morphing over time. The registrations have changed, and at one time there was just like registration that you got a blue paper with your puppy, you sent it in, and you got an adult paper, and that was that. And then somewhere along the way, I think it's probably like in the 90s, a lot of shit went down in the 90s. 90s was a happening time. And what year were you born, Tyson?
85, so not in the 90s, but
so you in the 90s you were hitting kindergarten, while the rest of us were, AKC was changing up their registration and stuff in the 90s. Tyson was hitting school, and they started into what they called limited registration, where if the breeders wanted to sell a dog, instead of just giving the paper, they could sell it as a companion performance dog only. It couldn't be shown in conformation, and it couldn't be bred with puppies registered to that paper. And they also had what I had used with my very first AKC dog. They had an ILP number, which is if you had a purebred, but you didn't have access to its papers, you could get an ILP, and then you could show that dog in performance, junior showmanship, all of that. But that you couldn't show it in conformation, and you couldn't register puppies to it. But it would be like identified as a purebred fill in the blank or whatever it was, and which was something that was done to let people that had a purebred dog, compete and see if they wanted it. It worked for me. I thought it was a great thing. I wouldn't have been able to get my parents to cough up money for an expensive registered dog. And
they somewhere along the way they changed it from ILP to, I think it's a PAL number now.
Yes. That's dating me. It's like the blue slips on the papers. Yeah. Now it's a PAL number.
I'm trying to help you out here. It's a PAL number now.
Yeah, appreciate that. Bring me into the now. And Also along the way in there, they have started AKC, and we're not bashing AKC. AKC is the mothership, and I know everybody likes to blame AKC for everything that's going wrong in their life. But as far as registries go, the best one by far. They are the most user-friendly. They're very inclusive. They put a lot into health testing. They do a lot. I mean, are they perfect? No. But are they the best thing going? By far. And if you go listen to some of the stuff happening in other countries where they're doing breed bans and they're, all of the stuff where they're turning, the registry is turning people into the officials and all this stuff. I mean, no, we've got a pretty cool registry as far as that goes. But like everything else, it's a business. And in order for them to register our dogs and do all of the things that on their end, they've got to make registrations happen. They need to have their participation in the events. All of that has to be reflective of the time. So how long have you been showing now?
Not even a year, but just about a year. We'll just say a year.
Yeah. So the NOHS stuff, that's only just a few years old.
Yeah, and to me, that's just like, it's been here since day one to me, right? Because when I started getting into it, I was like, oh, what's this NOHS? Well, this is kind of cool because I don't feel like I can compete with these handlers. So let me go to this NOHS group and, I'm competing with other owner handlers and, this is great.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, and that was an idea that AKC floated to increase entries at the shows because they were like going, hey, people can, because right at first when it came out, everybody hated the idea of grand championships and selects. I was like, oh, change is awful. Back in my time, we didn't do things like that kind of stuff, which is super helpful. And the NOHS was like, well, that's just junior showmanship, blah, 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 blah. Well, in every other kind of exhibition, horses, whatever, they have either amateur status or where people are not paid professionals competing against the non-paid professionals like the owners. So, I mean, to offer a separation only makes sense. And the fact that people can rank their dogs as owners and stuff where they maybe don't have $20,000 to show campaigning a dog all year long, but they can show it themselves and get some ranking and some titles. Very cool, and has really made a huge difference at the shows. I mean, it's like because I've only been judging for a couple of years and I love the NOHS. I learn about new breeds. I learn about new examination techniques, all of that stuff. When I've got a breed, if I'm doing a group that I'm not regular status for, especially in advance, I'll go ahead and read their standards, see what their DQs are. Like, oh, we're going to span these and we're going to examine this, and that's a DQ. So you can kind of familiarize yourself so you have an idea as to what you're trying to do. But changes and sometimes things happen incrementally. At one point in time, we started doing DNA profiles on our dogs. I think we talked about DNA before. And
let me guess, people hated it.
That, what's that?
Let me guess, when it first came out, people hated it.
Flipped out.
Yeah, because it's new.
Oh yeah, the sky is falling. It's really bad. And it did have unintended consequences where there were dogs that were purebred dogs, and then for whatever reason, they couldn't determine a parent. Like the DNA wouldn't match up. So there was a registration developed after that. These are obviously purebred dogs. Something's happened and so they would issue a paper, would be a registration, and they would have a Q. And the Q papers, by the time that dog had been bred off of a 3-generation pedigree, they revert back to a full registration. This wasn't a thing that they did to keep dogs in the gene pool, to keep them from being lost because of circumstance. Like, dog sired a litter and then he was never DNA'd and lost or whatever. And then that kind of thing. And so all of these things new. So what's been blowing up, what we were talking about was revisiting the status of the limited registration. And that's what I think what everybody.
So there was an article that came out in the AKC Gazette. So what everybody knows, who knows how many people know, because it came out in the AKC Gazette. So you really got to be paying attention to that, or, he said, she said stuff that you're finding out. That's where I saw it at. And then I started seeing it off. Does random Joe Schmo know about it? I don't know. But what I got out of it is they're revisiting limited registration, right? And what you can do with a limited registration. So maybe a limited registration dog can go into a confirmation ring. Do you want to dig into that a little bit deeper? What's that article saying? What are they trying to do?
Well, from what I was able to take from it, because I'm not a delegate, but we have friends that are, and is that they were wanting dogs, that people that had gotten dogs on limited registration that maybe had interest in AKC events other than performance, that they could show in confirmation as well as performance. They're opening that up to it because there's like the set of rules around something like right now 4 to 6 puppies. 4 to 6 puppies, professional handlers can't show in 4 to 6 puppies. I don't know why. I don't make the rules. We're just here reporting the news, folks. I think if anybody wants to take a 4 to 6 puppy and go pay for having an experience with the 4 to 6 puppy, I think that's wonderful. More 4 to 6 puppies is better, but whatever. But right now you can't be an agent or a handler on a 4 to 6 puppy. But now they're saying that possibly opening it up to limited dogs could compete in confirmation events, but with the caveat they had to be intact, no spay neuters, and then that we've just been seeing the aftermath, the fallout of people losing their minds as to limited registration and that we're gonna how bad this is going to all be and all that. I think that's where we kind of jumped in.
So who does this really affect the most? I mean, I go to breeders, right? Because we're breeders, so we kind of look at it from our shoes of like, well, if we're selling puppies and people are now, we're selling them to as a limited registration, but now people are keeping them intact, potentially breeding them, but not registering the litter. Like, dig into this a little bit. Like, what does it mean
Okay,
for
well,
breeders?
what I'm afraid of with the possibility of this is the unintended consequence. If you're going to offer a limited registration, but then we're going to go ahead and keep these people, encourage them to keep them intact, that's kind of counterproductive to having them being altered, performance animals. So if we're keeping them intact, they're going to get bred. Murphy's Law. That just is going to happen. If we're encouraging
especially
people
in a pet home, right? That's where accidents happen. Is
woo, boy,
the
howdy,
less
yeah.
educated people that are like, well, I have this
Well,
intact male or this female.
right. If they have more than one and it's living as a family animal in their house, that might not be the most regimented, controlled situation. And accidents can happen with the best of plans, but throw in the kids and company and friends coming over, dogs in heat twice a year, and shazam. We have a dog bred. We might not even know it until it's showing, and then it's like, well, this dog is not. And then because I have bred dogs and sold them on limited registration, and then had people breed them later on and come back with the expectation that I would change the registration over to let them do it, which unfortunately the answer is always a hard no, always unrelenting, always no. No matter what, even if you cry. But the kicker is you're setting these situations in motion. So for me, when I sell them on limited paper, I really want them to spay and neuter them. That's really my goal: is don't have the boys peeing in the house, don't have the girls, being the tart in the neighborhood and having all of the, them get bred by the neighbor's dog. I prefer them to be altered, so that kind of flies in the face of that a little bit. In the olden days, what we would do is if we wanted something spayed or neutered, we would hold the paper, give them a sales contract, give them the chip information, shot record, and we'd hold the paper. And when they sent us back a certificate or something, proof from the vet that they'd had the dog altered, then we'd send them the paper. But now you don't have to do that because you have the limited paper. So that's kind of, and the other thing, I mean, and I know that we're going to probably get a little bit of heat on this, but if there's a problem, maybe has a personal problem with this, you have Tyson's information, contact him with it. He'll gladly listen to you about it.
I'm a pro at handling the garbage stuff.
Yeah. People like to sell the breeding rights. They're going to go ahead and they're going to sell them, like, I'm going to sell the dog this price on a limited paper, which would be less, or this price for an open paper. So we have a little bit of the sell, because I know everyone's like, well, I'm going to do this because I'm concerned this isn't the quality. A lot of people just sell it. And a lot of people don't want their dogs bred. And I mean, I can kind of share in that idea. I don't want just everyone breeding my dogs and then having to flip open the pages of the stuff on the internet and go, oh, look, they have a puppy out of one of my dogs I sold as a pet, and it's got a litter of puppies for sale on Craigslist. That doesn't make me happy. I don't love that. So, I mean, I'm just be honest about it. I do the limited to control what's bred. I can control what's offered out of my dogs. I want to make sure that it's a control thing. Absolutely.
That's
controls
the purpose
market,
of
controls
the
the
limited,
quality.
though, right?
What's that?
That's the purpose of the limited, though, right? Is to control the breeding of that dog, or no?
I think that's the purpose as far as the breeders are concerned.
Yeah, I would
by
say
and
that's
large,
the purpose.
they either want paid for the full registration. They're either going to sell it, or they don't want to compete with it, and they don't want to deal with it, and they don't want. It's like, if I'm just selling this person a dog, and I want to make sure it's a good home. They have fenced yard. They're going to have money to take care of the dog to the vet. If I have to, then all of a sudden be vested into them as far as a breeding dog, and I have to go this whole added dimension of a relationship, yeah, I'm not interested. I'm unavailable. I don't want to take that on. I mean, I'm glad there are people that do. That's why young people have children and old people like me do not have children, because we're no longer equipped for it. But, there's a whole nother layer of relationship and responsibility that goes with offering that open paper dog. And that's what I think where people are mostly like, I don't want that to go. All right, now they've shown this dog, they've gotten championship wins on it, and now they want to have a puppy out of Muffy. Well, kind of hard not to, now we're at a whole nother level, because they have dogs that are being competing for conformation, and conformation is, when it's all said and done, there's a whole aspect of evaluating breeding stock going on there, and if everybody is there, it's kind of like a car show. By the time it's done, you're thinking, yeah, I'd like one of those cars. Kind of like, I'd like to have a litter of puppies. It's just the mindset, which is a great thing. I'm very pro breeder, bring it on. But I think that, when you are the breeder and you're dealing with those people, you kind of equip yourself in one way to sell a pet, and then a whole nother kind of relationship for someone because of having a breeding dogs, because it's a lot more, you have a lot more at stake.
Is this one of those things that we talked about, people hating change? Is this one of those things where they're saying like, hey, we're thinking about doing this and we're all pooping on it because it's something different? Or is this one of those things where I feel like, if I'm understanding it right, I'm kind of feeling like, okay, AKC wants more people to be involved in their events. So let's make it to where these limited registration dogs can show in conformation if they're intact. Great concept maybe of like what we want to do, but how does the execution handle? Because the point of a conformation show is to evaluate breeding stock, right? So why are we treating it as an event if it's an evaluation of breeding stock? I feel like that's where we're getting some confusion on, like, what is the actual purpose of a limited paper? Oh, well, let's make it to where they can show in conformation. Well, what's the point of conformation? Breeding stock. So now if somebody
it's
takes
a mixed
Billy,
message for sure.
Right. Yeah, it's super
mixed message
so,
for sure. But
so what
okay,
is,
so Yeah.
Like, what would the
I
pros
mean,
of
that's
this
valid.
be?
I think that's very valid. I think your point is valid. And I think that multiple things can be true at the same time. Yes, we hate change. Change, whenever we come up with change, we go, oh, that's a terrible idea. Jane and I, one of the few fights we ever had was like when I wanted to pull our print ads out of Dog World and she wanted to pull them out of Dog World and build a website. And I thought that was insanity. I'm like, that'll never catch on. And she's like, yeah, you're out of touch. I shop, you don't. We're doing this. I'm like, okay, fine. It's an awful idea. It's all on you. Okay, so she was right. The internet did catch on.
As usual, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
there you go. But I'm not sure that the plan of yanking of taking dogs that are sold as pets on a pet idea, because a lot of clubs hold breeders very responsible for the dogs they sell on open papers. I mean, you can have a lot of that comes back onto you. It's like, honestly, it's like if you're the breeder and someone takes your dogs and they do something disreputable or not good with them or whatever, it comes back on you. Those people are unknown. That was just a bad decision on your part to involve them. And now you just brought somebody irresponsible in and left dogs out. So you're just by proxy irresponsible as well. So there's all of that. I do, however, have a big issue with the idea, and this is epidemic. Absolutely. I think it just really pisses me off, honestly. There is a lot of people that are showing dogs and breeding dogs, and they get heralded as top breeders. This is a top breeder, blah, blah, blah. They're a top breeder. And yet, when it comes time, you say, well, who has had a top winning dog from that person, from that breeder? No one. Zero. They kept them themselves. They promoted themselves. They offered nothing to the breed. They never did stud services. They never sold show puppies. They never brought new breeders in. They were just a bunch of egomaniacs with nothing to do on the weekends, and they gathered up all the ribbons they could load in their Sprinter. And as far as relevant breeders, no, they did nothing to benefit the breed. Nobody got their start. Nobody got their first best in show dog, their first group winner, their first whatever, because, those people there that are out there slugging it out. And I make myself, because I don't want to, but I make myself, if someone's seriously interested on a show dog and really wants to put the work in, I help them. I help them. I would rather not, because it's tiring and it's easier just to sell them as a pet and not have to, because if they sell them as a pet, all they have to do is poop outside. If they poop outside and they're cute, it's a win, right? You
As
sell
long
a
as you
show
send
person.
pictures often enough.
Yes, right? Because the waiting's the hardest part.
Yes.
But, but it's a whole lot more dealing with show people, new breeders. But I think if you're going to wear the title of breeder, owner, handler, you're a breeder, you've got to contribute to your breeding. Maybe the breeders of merit should have to bring in new people into the sport and new people into the breed to able to be a breeder of merit, because really you're just a breeder of ego. If your dogs don't impact the breed, and if when you go to your last show, your dogs disappear off the face of the earth, well then, really, who cares? Yeah, you were a good groomer, a good handler. You spend a lot of money. You were
Well,
irrelevant to the breed.
I mean, that's probably a whole new podcast topic, but breeder of merit and what that means and how you get it. Cause it's like, I see a lot of breeder of merit badges on people, but it's like, I've never even seen your kennel name in a catalog at a dog show. And I've been to a lot of dog shows this year, and it's like, couldn't even tell you who you are. So it's like, are you really a breeder of merit? Like, what does that actually mean? Might be
Yeah,
a whole podcast episode there.
it could be a whole podcast. Absolutely. But I'll tell you, the thing about being a breeder is you are only as good as your last work. Like, it's like same any other kind of art or anything. I mean, if, you were good once, can you be good again? How many times can you be good? But people who don't contribute, and I can see that maybe limited registration in some ways with AKC is like people are just holding on to that as a marketing tool, holding on to that as a control thing, and that we're choking out new people coming into shows. That's all probably very valid. I believe that's absolutely true. And maybe there should be maybe AKC should encourage breeders to show and bring other people into showing and help propagate the breed more than just their own dogs, and their own wins. I mean, I can see that. I think that's a valid thing. It's sticky because it's going to involve some change. It's really going to piss people off. But, but as it sits right now, where they've got the in limbo, where what should we do with the limited dogs? We did hear some stuff from our sources at the delegates meeting that didn't go anywhere. So it was a lot of like getting all ruffled up over nothing. But it's not going to happen in that form. But there needs to be something happen with it. I mean, when you were looking to get dogs on open papers, how hard or how easy was that?
Well, let me answer that in a second. So let me clarify real quick. So our inside sources are telling us, like, is this breaking news? Do we have like a
news.
Breaking news on the Tack Box Podcast?
Do we have an emoji like something exploding? Like,
yeah, like, hey, we have an inside scoop here. Our sources are telling us that this went nowhere and is probably not going to go nowhere. So
that's what we've been
everybody
told.
can rest easy. All the breeders out there that are freaking out, like, it sounds like this is going nowhere, and maybe it'll grow, it'll grow legs again at some point, and it'll be revisited. But maybe it can be revisited on a different level of different terms. Maybe there can be a different type of registration that something with confirmation.
Maybe there should be some sort of incentive, some kind of encouraging to get people to come. And I think at the end of the day, I think people are really kind of good with the whole idea of not having competition. I mean, because we all kind of talk about like, we need to da-da-da-da, but really, I think they're kind of happy with not having it. I think they're kind of good with it, more or less. I mean, because honestly, we have been changing things like, so if you get a group placement, not just any group placement, you can now pick up a major. So you might have the only one, show it. Like the other day at the dog show, I had a 1-point entry that ended up winning the group and got a 5-point major off of another breed. All of that. I mean, so there's all this. There can be one dog and one bitch, and whoever goes best to winners can get a point. There's lots of things now to get a point. You don't need that much competition. And, so, I mean, you get more competition in there. You have to try a little harder. You might lose a little bit more, competition for their breeding. People are going to be going, oh, they're flooding the market, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to have to compete against that. They're going to flood it. I'm going to be up to my eyeballs, So if we can stop out competition, even though maybe we're saying one thing, maybe we really kind of mean another. Maybe we're like totally good with no competition.
Well, and that's stupid too, because it's like a double-edged sword. It's like you don't want competition, and AKC themselves are basically saying, "Hey, we're going to make it easier to get your championship. We're gonna let you get group placings to get a major because maybe there's not a lot of competition in your breed." And I understand that, and I think it's great. I've gotten a major out of the groups before too. I totally get it. But where I struggle with it then is, you look at some of the entries and it's like there's not a lot of competition, and it's like we're looking at a group of a specific breed that's meh. So there's not competition to like want to improve your breeding, because it's just like you can walk into the ring with a meh dog and win and end up getting a championship paper out of it, and like now I have this champion. But when you look at this dog and you compare it to the breed standard, it's like, yeah, this is a 5, not a really good dog, not a really good representation of the breed. So the lack of competition in the breeder world is really actually hurting our breeds, right?
Oh, that is a fact, Jack. I mean, because I'm telling you, you can, when they said at one point, because as things were getting, because all right, you get your entries back, You've got a motel room booked. You've got your pet sitter booked. You've got all your plans. You got off early from work, got made arrangements with your kids, got the van packed, and then it's like, I just need a major on my dog. Well, oh, there's not a major entered. Oh, Sally's not coming. She fell and broke her leg, and so she's using that as an excuse not to drive. And so the major's broke. But never fear. So that would have kept you home before. Now they're saying, come, stay in the hotel room. Eat at Roosty's. Come, enjoy the show. We want you there. There's a way you can win. Wait, there's more. If you go best of winners over the only other class animal, of the other sex, you can get a point. You can, and for a long time, because I've been showing long enough, there wasn't best of winners when I started. And so that people were like going, what? You can get best of winners and pick up a major off of the other sex and not even have to compete against a member of your own sex, and you can get a major? Really? And people hated that idea until they said,
until they won a major off of it.
Until they got a major on it, and they're going, this is the best idea ever.
It's kind of like select for grand champion points, right?
Absolutely. You don't hear the photographers going, oh, stop, we're having to take too many pictures, too much winning, stop. No one's complaining. So
unless they hate photographing a certain dog because it doesn't sit still.
Yeah, because the dog's a little asshole to take his pictures of. But honestly, it's really all of this has changed, and I question whether or not people really, truly do want the competition. Do they really, truly want to see more people showing, more people breeding? Do they really want that? Or are they really kind of pretty much, if they're being honest with themselves, are they totally good with just doing their own and everyone's on their own? And good luck to you. We'll fight it out in the ring. Because ultimately, AKC is, because they were talking about closing the AKC museum, this and that. AKC is based on our registrations. So when our registrations and I don't know, I think that people get this idea that something is too big to fail. Like this is like Oz, like GM, they can't fail. They're too big to fail. They're just so huge, No, can be too big to fail.
They still got bills to pay.
They got bills. They got a lot of bills to pay, and they do a lot of things for a lot of. It's like I was listening to some of the performance people and some of all that. That's a whole nother vein of stuff with that. There's lots to it. All of it costs money. Every bit of it costs money. There's money every aspect of it, and AKCs get involved with health testing. They're involved with breeder promotion. They're involved with breed education, everything from all of it. It's just, and they have lots of full-time people that are working full-time for that. And if they don't have if the registrations go down because everybody's buying a doodle, that's less money. If all of their breeders are selling 98% of their dogs on limited papers that are not going to be bred, maybe not even registered. They have been trying to crack down on making people register their dogs to keep their breeder of merit, because that's all they're getting from it is that one-time registration fee. That's it. If they think they're paying for the museum off of the recording fee, that's not reality-based. All of that money's got to come from somewhere, and it's got to come from registrations is the bottom line. And when that drops, they just, you're losing. So, all of that stuff kind of comes home to, it's got to be paid for one place or another.
And that's probably where this idea came from is, let's let them do more. We'll get some entry fees or more registrations, things like that. Maybe that's where this idea came from. I don't know.
100%. Everything, it's all come from that. Whether the 4 to 6 puppy, that's come from that. Like, hey, how about this? How about you bring younger puppies? We'll have a 4 to 6 competition, which is like a show inside the show. How about this? How about we'll have owner handler? We're going to do another 7 groups and a best in show and another set of rosettes. And, you notice, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong or in between, the NOHS stuff. How much do you pay to show an NOHS? Zero. You know how much the judges get paid extra for judging NOHS? Zero.
Zero.
Yeah. You know how much the clubs schedule all of those groups, the best,
Have
all of the
ribbons.
rosettes. Yeah. 30 rosettes, right? All of that. It's all got to be, we're just covering that. And, and people go, yeah, we'll go from all of the bazillions of dollars from AKC. No, the clubs have got to scrape it up to try to keep people coming. I mean,
Well, and
that's
it's all a business at the end of the day, and they have to make money, and I think they're trying to come up with ways to make money, and they're doing some good things as well. But I think where we have to look is like people want tangible things. They want to work towards something. They want to have something. So like I know, well, I believe it. I read this earlier in the year, and I think it's happening starting October 1st that they're giving titles for owner handler. So if you get like bronze owner handled, you can get a title on your dog following the dog's name. I think that goes into effect October 1st, but you have to pay for it. It's like, you know, I'm a bronze owner handler, but if I want the title on my dog, I got to pay $30 for it. So ways for AKC to make money. But the thing about it is people want that stuff. Like people are going to
sure.
pay. All the people that are bronze
Absolutely.
owner handlers or higher, they're all going to pay for that because they want that on their dogs. People want things that say, look at me, I'm awesome. So how can we, and maybe instead of putting out this limited registration intact dogs can show confirmation thing, maybe we try to figure out how we can get tangible items for these breeders of merit or for people that are being valuable and doing valuable things, give people something to work towards. And that's where the like the levels of grand champion probably came from, right? Keep people coming back to the shows so we can have money. We need to keep thinking
Absolutely.
along those lines
Absolutely.
rather than
We want you to come back. Bring them
yeah.
on back. I mean, when we started showing, there was no such thing as paid for grooming space. I mean, you just went to the show, there's a grooming shop, you set up. I was like, no one pay that. That just kind of came later on when they're trying to go, how are we going to come up with the money to pay for this and this and this? Oh, all right, we'll sell grooming space. We're going to this. So maybe there needs to be something like where we're going to, hey, you're going to have to, maybe we're going to need to reward people who are producing more champions. Maybe we need to reward people who are bringing in new blood, new whatever. Maybe that should be part of our thing. Like, if you want to be like a a significant breeder, maybe the AKC needs to recognize those people and say, hey, these people here, they're breeding awesome dogs and they're bringing people in and they're getting, this is their breed. The breed is better because of them, and the breed will continue on because of these people, because they're not selfish assholes that just want a bunch of ribbons and say how great I am and you suck. It's more like there's a little bit of the idea of breed betterment going on there. You know,
Well,
maybe
and there
that's it.
has to be, otherwise the breed dies, right? Like if you
Right.
keep all the small dogs for yourself, like
That's right. You got to
nobody
let
else
some
gets
small
any
ones
of them.
go
Yeah, you got to let some small ones go, and you got to let
every
other
now and
people have
again.
them. But I think not only is there a lot of the selfishness in there, but it's like I think it's extremely important that the big valuable breeders in each breed are bringing somebody along for the ride. Like, who are you mentoring and bringing along for the ride that can take over what you're doing when you're no longer breeding? And then who are they starting to think about, like bringing the younger generation with, a generation below, keep bringing them up with you. So, when you're too old to retire, and when I say you, I mean whoever's listening to this podcast, if you're a big breeder, who are you bringing with you along the ride to keep your breed going? Because if we're all selfish and want to keep everything for ourselves, what happens when you can't do it anymore?
Well,
Like,
it
do you
just ends
want the
with you.
breed to die with you? I mean,
Right.
if you want the breed to die with you, you're not a great breeder. Let me tell you that.
No,
Like you're selfish,
that's, yeah, just like all the Pharaoh's pets being put to death and buried with them. It's like, if you want to be relevant beyond your time, then I mean, then I think that having a lasting impact, then I think that's kind of important. And I think even like with the juniors, I like the idea of junior showmanship. I like the younger generation come along, but it's more than just winning. Winning's awesome. Love to win. Don't, never turn down a good win. But There's more to it than that, and I think that the idea of being proud of your dogs winning with somebody else, your dogs winning someone else, which I think is actually it might be stressful to people to have their dogs other places with other people, and, I don't know, it's a conundrum, and I can definitely see where AKC is trying to change with the times, trying to bring people in, bring in entry, support these events, get, more participation, having these breeds go on and thrive in today's environment with what we're doing. I don't know if the exact way is uh to kind of like rob the limited thing. I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure limited registration was that great of an idea for them. Honestly, I think that was probably one of those things that maybe if they could unring that bell, they might have done that. They might have gone, we could just skip that and let them, deal with that on their own. They could have done that. We're just a registry. You guys handle all that yourselves. But nonetheless, you open the bottle. Now it's yours to try to shove back in.
What kind of like, let's talk like the big word that we don't want to talk about, but like what introducing something like this, my brain like picks it apart, and I'm like trying to like, what are the pros of this? What are the cons of this? What kind of cans of worms are we opening if something like this were to go through? And one of them that popped up in my head, it was like, man, I feel like PETA would have a heyday with this, because it's like, yeah, let's promote people keeping their limited dogs intact that can't register the litters. Now we're basically saying we're going to have a bunch of unregistered dogs being born out there that can't be registered. I feel like PETA would have a heyday with this.
Well, I mean, we've got a lot of agenda. There's I don't think that the whole idea of pet people keeping dogs intact is probably swell. I don't think it's a great plan. I don't know if there should be competition for spay and neuter animals. I don't know if that would sell. I don't know if people would care enough to do that. They do it in cats, but we're already doing the regular groups and the NOHS groups. I don't think you could do another set of groups in one day. I mean, it's spread pretty thin right now with the scheduling is like down to the millisecond. So, I mean, I think that really that it lies with the idea of AKC promoting the people and maybe getting the word out with the parent clubs like, hey, if you drop below a certain threshold of your membership, then you're gonna lose your charter. Or but you have to bring this many people in breeding. Your club needs to encourage breeding. When your whole board of directors in your club hasn't had a litter in the last 5 years, got a problem there. That's stale. Those are people who are not involved. They're not relevant to the breed. And now they're just doing they're making big things. They're like in the parent club making rules and stuff, but they're not playing the game. They don't know what they're talking about. When we did that in the 70s, it's like, yeah, 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 yeah. Used to be's don't count anymore. You know,
Yeah, we used to
you
watch
got
TV in black and white, and now we watch it in high definition. Come on, you know.
there you go. There you go. So I mean, I think that really the whole point is that maybe there needs to be more incentive, more encouragement, more and maybe there should be more breeder recognition, make people want to compete for that. Like, hey, listen, it's like, I know for myself, we have sold most of the like 17 best in show chin, a couple of best in show cow. We've other people have them. A lot of it. I mean, we kept a couple, but most of them, 85%, we sold to other people. Very proud of that. Super proud of the fact the dog I sold that or gave away to a friend of mine as a champion, number one NOHS dog in the country right now. Super proud of that. Awesome. Because someone's doing, and then like another brother getting bred and puppies in the ring. That to me is really important. But you don't get a lot of recognition for that. So maybe that needs to be recognized. The idea of, bigger contributions to the breed and to the gene pool. Maybe there has to be something to that. I don't know.
I 100 a million% agree, and I'm old school on the terms of, and this is playing right off of what you were just saying. what are the dog shows about? It's confirmation. We're judging breeding stock. We are pro breeding. So if we now let spayed and neutered dogs show in confirmation, like, really, what's the point? Like, does it ruin the sport of confirmation? Does it ruin it? It doesn't keep it
Well,
pure because we're supposed to be evaluating breeding stock. They can't breed.
I mean,
So
I think we need to. I mean, performance is awesome, and we got duck diving and all this other stuff. That's all great, and I can see that we're opening these competitions up. Very cool, but ultimately, what do we need to do to be encouraging breeding? What do we need to do these parent clubs to be saying, you need to bring in more breeders. You need to encourage your membership to breed. You need to have proactive people who are actively breeding and raising puppies, because otherwise it gets very negative and it just like stomps out breeding. I actually knew one club that canceled the Breeder of the Year award because they said it encouraged too many champions. I'm like, too many champions. That's okay. That's a concept. So I mean, but I think that's kind of where our problem lies, and we do need to encourage it. But I don't know if shaking down the limited dogs and inviting them to go show them confirmation, I don't know if that's really gonna make it happen. I don't see that really working
I don't see it super beneficial. I see more, like you were saying, rewarding breeders that have dogs in the ring, in
in the
multiple
ring.
shows, multiple areas, seeing success. I mean,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
see certain kennels, your kennel. There's a couple other ones that you see that in multiple shows throughout the country. That's like, okay, yeah, awesome. They have dogs out there that are performing, and I mean, there should be awards and such for that, of promoting the breed and
Let's hear what
having a certain
everybody
amount of
thinks
champions.
about this. Let's get some feedback, folks. Write us and tell us, see what you think.
Yeah, put it in the comments on YouTube, in the Facebook group, and let us know what you think. But the scoop, the breaking news is, it doesn't seem like this is going to happen. So we're all freaking out over nothing right now. It's and a lot of this stuff can just be one person gets this idea, and how can we increase revenue? So they bring it to the board and say we can do this, and then it gets put in the minutes, and then it gets published in an article, because that's how this happens, and then everybody freaks out, and it's just the circle of how this all works. But we wanted to touch on it because we heard that's all we heard about at the show this weekend, and that's all we've seen all over
Us.
Facebook. And we're pro breeding. We both want to leave. I mean, you've left a huge fingerprint on multiple breeds. I want to leave a fingerprint on Japanese Chin. But this is all super important to purebred dogs in general.
In the continuation of it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Should we do some listener questions?
Do we have time?
Yeah, we got a few minutes. I think we
Okay,
got time.
let's throw it out there. What do we got?
All right, we got time for a couple listener questions here. Okay, when it comes to breeding puppies and newborn puppies, what ideas and ways do you have for preventing flat chest swimmers, things like that with puppies? Should you be putting
So,
egg crate felt stuff underneath them so they have to, use their feet and move around and they're not on a flat surface?
all right, prevention is by not breeding dogs that were flat. If your dogs are flat and swimmers and you keep breeding back into that flat swimmer, flat swimmer, flat swimmer, you're going to get more. So, if you keep back dogs that are either from it or have litter mace or were flat themselves or slow to get on their feet, you're going to get more of that. So that's number one. Once you have it and you try to want to work your way around it, texture, like, where they have like egg crepe or like bunching up of towels where they can like get their legs up under them more. That'll help. We used to, back in the day, we would do hobbles with tape. We take their little legs and we just take tape and go right around there and then pinch the center part, and that would pull the little legs together and they could get up on themselves. And it was just to kind of, put them on, take them off, put them on, take it off. It just kind of would strengthen their legs and get them to pull up. Usually they outgrow it. I mean, 9 times out of 10, they outgrow it. And, and sometimes they're usually beautiful puppies. They usually have a lot of retype. So, I mean, you're going to be tempted to keep them. But do it knowing and don't double on it.
So what about flat chested? Is flat chested something that if you whelp a litter and then you have just
You're not
a
going to
hospital
make them
pad down?
flat-chested. It's not something that you do that makes them that. They have a genetic tendency to be that way. And so there are things you can do to try to help get them out of it. But ultimately, there's, you don't propagating it is how to, try not to propagate it. That's how you avoid it. But once you get it, texture, tape, those kind of things, exercise, strengthening, and they usually outgrow it to a certain extent. I'm not going to say they don't. I don't know if those dogs have the longest lives in the book, but I've seen a couple that have gone on pretty long time. So, you can kind of work around it, but be aware of it. Don't double on it.
Don't double on it. Double on
Don't
what you
double on it.
want. Perfect answer. All right. Next question. Length of dog versus movement. How do they coincide? Do you notice that a longer dog? I think we're talking about Japanese chin. It's a Japanese chin person, so I'm assuming it's Japanese chin. But do you notice that longer dogs move better than shorter dogs when you see movement, or is there any sort of connection between length of dog
Correlation.
and better movement? Yeah.
All right. So all of the longer bones generally go together. So if they're a little taller, they might have a little more neck. They might have a little more length of body. I imagine that to a certain extent, a dog with a little bit more leg and all that might have a bigger stride, bigger side gait than a dog that was shorter and compact. I think the big thing is not so much to worrying about length is a hard thing to breed away from, and especially when you have a breed that calls for short. So where you really want the length of your dog to be in rib, not in loin. Long dogs that are long in loin really aren't that great of movers because it's kind of like a truck and trailer and this is not really in sync. They usually take 2 or 3 steps to kind of get everything going in the same direction. But your better movement comes from matching angles front and rear. So if you have a good angulation in the front and good angulation in the rear, you're going to have a bigger, freer side gate. You're going to have more extension, more efficiency of footstep. You're going to have fewer steps to go more distance. That's really how you're getting the better movement. Where you have also, to a certain extent, dogs that are super straight on both ends, they're going to move fairly true too because they're balanced. The balance is the key. The balance is your key. You're going to get your truest down and back, most balanced movement on dogs that are balanced on both ends. When you have a dog that has way more rear than front, when they take off to move, they'll start to go sideways, like they're sliding through the snow, like they're tapping their brakes right before they hit the curb. And a lot of times what handlers will do is they'll put them on the other side. You ever see someone taking them down and they don't have them in the left hand, they have them in the right hand because they're trying to get them to walk straight because they're wanting to turn off to left. Maybe it's behavior. Everyone says, oh, it's not that he's sidewinding. He just wants to get to the other dogs. Well, then go to a training class. Teach your dog to walk on the right damn side. But, when they put them down there, that's to try to counteract them wanting to turn over into the other way. So, teaching them, balance front and rear, going to get a straighter down and back, more angles on both ends, going to get more extension, a more effortless gait.
Perfect. Last question. Does pineapple go on pizza?
Oof.
That's a no. See, I totally agree. That's disgusting.
That's just gross. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
And that's one, if you put pineapple on pizza, and you have a problem with us not liking pineapple on pizza, email Jane because I don't want those questions. I don't want those ones.
I mean, because everybody knows cold pizza in the morning is the best breakfast ever. And who wants to eat cold pineapple on? Yeah, no, that's a hard pass on that.
Yeah, I can do pineapple on pizza. All right.
We go after the hard topics on this podcast.
Yeah, we're talking AKC hot topics and pineapple on pizza, which is a huge one.
All of it.
And, breeders keeping all the good dogs for themselves.
All the good
we hit
ones.
it. We hit
Hoarding.
everything. Yeah.
We covered it all.
Yeah. So speaking of hoarding, we do have an episode on hoarding. So if you're a hoarder, go check out that episode. It's like episode 2, something like that. We're on
It's
25
a fun
now.
one.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're only getting better and better as we go. So this was a fantastic topic. next week, sometime in the future, unless AKC releases some new publishing and we have a hot topic that we need to discuss. We need to discuss registering litters, because I got that coming up. I need to register a litter. So we got to get, talk about that and
We're
all the
starting your
namings.
marketplace ad and all that. Yep.
Yeah,
Very
all
cool.
that fun stuff. So yeah, that'll be coming up super quick. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining this episode of the Tack Box Podcast, episode 25. We appreciate you being here. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, join our Facebook group, ask your questions away in the Facebook group. We love hearing what you guys have to say. Leave reviews on us, unless they're negative, then you just email them to me.
Yeah.
Just keep them to yourself. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah. Don't rain on a parade.
Yeah, don't rain on the parade. We're trying to grow here. We're trying to build for the future. Come on.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye now.
Bye.